It's time for another Make It Gay. We're approaching Valentine's Day. It's the season of love, or whatever. I don't know if it's ever been, is that what it's called? Has anyone ever called it that? You know, it's time for romance. And what is better than a Make It Gay? If you don't know, I have this series on my channel in my artwork where I take classic romantic paintings, or classic famous paintings or whatever, and I turn them into queer representation. I have a whole playlist with all the pieces I've ever done. I love them, I treasure them very much. I also sell pretty much all of them on my Etsy shop, so you can go check that out. They are some of my favorite pieces to work on, some of the favorite pieces of art I've ever done, and I cherish this series very, very closely. Before we continue, I want to thank my patrons. Your names are on screen. Thank you so much for supporting me. Love you guys so much. If you would like to support me and my art a little bit further, Patreon is a great way to do it. And you get fun stuff out of it. Every month I make an exclusive postcard and sticker that I mail to you. There's exclusive videos where I do a little bit more chill or relaxed stuff. There's some behind the scenes type stuff. A podcast where I get really in depth in my business in the whole month, and all sorts of fun stuff. So if that interests you, go check it out. I would also like to talk to you about today's sponsor, Luisa. I've worked with Luisa many, many times, and I truly love them. I really love what the company stands for. I love their jewelry. I love that they are careful with the environment. I think they're really, really great. I wear their jewelry literally every day. In every single video, you will most likely see me wearing Luisa earrings. I have these squiggly ones that I have had for a while now, and I literally never take them out. And the fact that they still look new, crazy. What I didn't expect with getting Luisa jewelry was how much of a staple they would become to kind of my self-care routine, and also my expression of self-love, and also expressing who I am as a person and as an artist to the outside world. Whenever I'm getting ready and I just want to look like a little bit more elevated, I want to take a little bit more time in how I look. You know, I'm not big on makeup, I'm not big on super cute outfits. The one thing that I do really love doing is just adding a little bit of jewelry that makes me feel so much nicer. You know what I mean? It just is that little bit of elevation to my everyday routine. When I wear it, I feel like I look like a mature woman. I think it's classy and elegant, but I also feel like it is a little bit different. It's not like what every single person has, and it does make me feel a little bit more artsy in my everyday outfits. Even these earrings that I'm wearing right now, they're so simple and beautiful looking, but they're just slightly kind of funky. You know what I mean? And it makes me feel so much more like an artist. I feel like it's jewelry for me, and I love that. I think they've got jewelry for pretty much anyone, whether you're looking for yourself to add to your, self-love routine this month, or you've got someone special in mind that you want to get a gift for, and Luisa is going to have what you need. Their website will be hosting a sale. You can look out for discounts up to 25%. So this really is the perfect time to treat yourself or treat your loved ones. Go check it out. I really can't express to you just how worth it Luisa jewelry is. It's beautiful. It stands up to wear and time. Allergy sensitive. It's a carbon neutral company. Their packaging is so non-wasteful. It's wonderful. Thank you so much to Luisa for sponsoring. Now let's talk about today's video. Like I said, we're doing a Make It Gay. Actually, what's this piece called? Hold on. It's technically a subject I've done before, but who cares? It's a pretty painting. We are painting, I have to read it off. A thing is a lot of words. Cupid and Psyche in the Nuptial Bower by Hugh Douglas Hamilton. As always, we'll do a little bit of an art history segment. We'll talk about the original, and we'll also talk about the queer rep that's going on. We're doing two ladies. We love to see it. I've got the sketch here. I say this every time, but I love the sketch. I'm very scared to paint it and ruin the sketch because I love it so much. I did a survey on Instagram asking, I didn't tell you what piece I would be doing, just in general what medium you would want me to use, and gouache won by a long shot, but I'm just so scared to cover up this sketch with gouache. And I think I want to do gouache. I don't think markers will be enough for this piece because it's really dark. It requires a lot of contrast, and I think gouache will be better for that, but I'm afraid to paint over this sketch. Maybe I'll scan it so I can have a really nice copy beforehand. I also, while I was planning out what it would be, I did a really, really rough sketch, and I've been obsessed with this as well. I have high hopes. I think this piece is gonna turn out great. I'm really excited about it. So without further ado, let's go make it gay. So obviously we've got a Make It Gay today. We're gonna talk about what piece we're doing, some history behind it, and then we'll talk about my interpretation. I love these little art history segments. I'm honestly not super knowledgeable about art history, and it's never something I particularly feel like going out of my way to study or research, so it's super fun when I have kind of a reason to do it, you know what I mean? And I have a narrow scope of stuff that I need to research, so I don't get it's not like super overwhelming. It's just like, okay, look at this one painting, and it always leads to something else and then to something else. And every time I end up picking up something that is useful and sticks with me. So like I'm slowly making, it's making me more knowledgeable about all this stuff little by little. And I love it. And it's fun to share that with you. So as I said before, this piece is called Cupid and Psyche in the Nuptial Bower by Hugh Douglas Hamilton. I think I pronounced nuptial wrong in the intro. I think I said like nuptial, I don't know. It's nuptial, I think. I have painted a Cupid and Psyche piece before. It was Cupid and Psyche, or Psyche et l'amour, by William Adolphe Bouguereau. There are 1,000,000,001 paintings of this story and based on this inspiration. Some of them are very similar, and there's a lot of like overlap between the paintings. But I think these two are different enough. I mean, I wouldn't immediately know that they're even related, that I thought I myself can make two entirely different pieces from them. For my purposes, it doesn't really matter what the source material is or what the story is, because I'm mostly just using them as like a base to make pretty classical looking gay paintings, right? So it doesn't really matter what the source material like story is. So like who cares that I have a repeat Cupid and Psyche? So anyways, this piece, Nuptial Bower, I'm very confident that I've heard that term before. I know that nuptials relates to like marriage or weddings or something, like nuptial ceremony. I feel like I've heard that before. But bower, I did have to look up. Obviously, my mind was thinking tower. It's not tower. It seems to have multiple meanings. In older English, apparently it might have referred to, like according to Google, it might have referred to literally just any sort of dwelling, like any sort of shelter. Bridal bowers seems to be a thing, like that popped up a few times, which basically just means wedding or a place where a wedding happens. But the current official definition of bower means a pleasant, shady place under trees or climbing plants in a garden or wood, which any of these definitions seem to fit very comfortably with the piece that we've got. They're in some kind of alcove of trees and plants, but also it's a nuptial bower, so it does seem to be relating to a wedding ceremony of some sort. This original piece is 198 by 151 centimeters, or about 78 by 60 inches. It's done in oil on canvas and was painted in about a year, completed in 1793. It obviously is depicting the story of Cupid and Psyche, which, as we've covered, was a super popular subject for neoclassical painters. What is interesting about this piece is that Hamilton was actually inspired by his sculptor friend, Antonia Canova, who was working on a sculpture of Cupid and Psyche at the same time. Canova actually made two slightly different versions, one completed in 1793, but that one was a commission, so he didn't keep it, he didn't have it. I'm assuming the one that inspired Hamilton's paintings is the second piece, which was completed in 1794. And I only say that because the second one depicts Psyche with butterfly wings, which is not an uncommon way to depict Psyche, like that's pretty average. But the first sculpture didn't have them. I don't know, maybe it was both. Maybe he saw just the overall process of both, and he liked the idea of just doing Cupid and Psyche. I don't know, there wasn't much information on that. I just thought it was interesting. But yeah, so Psyche is immortal at first, but she is later granted wings by Zeus after being freed from death, and it's very typical for her to be represented with butterfly wings. I couldn't find a source as to like what came first in the lore here, but apparently in formal Greek, the word for butterfly is psyche, I believe. Again, that's what a source said. And butterflies are thought to be souls of the dead. There is a lot of interesting stuff there with the butterfly allegory. Cupid and Psyche are obviously a tale of love, but their overall story has also come to be associated with basically like the circle of life, the journey that the soul takes throughout life and then into the afterlife. And as we've discussed, that's exactly what a butterfly is thought to be, with its stages of caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly. I think it is very, very cool, especially because the original story is from a book called The Metamorphoses. I believe that's how you would pronounce it. Like, I don't know if there's a specific pronunciation. It is also known as the Golden Ass. I don't know if Metamorphoses relates to the butterfly thing, but metamorphosis, right? Like, am I connecting dots that aren't there? I don't know. So the story of Cupid and Psyche that we're depicting actually takes place in the middle of another story told from the first-person perspective of a man who gets turned into a donkey, i.e. the golden ass, and he goes through all these adventures to get turned back into his mortal form. We're not going to get into that because we don't care about him. We'll stick to Cupid and Psyche and their mythos. Psyche is the third and youngest daughter of a king and queen, and she's like insanely beautiful. She's so beautiful that people stopped worshiping Aphrodite, or Venus, the goddess of love, and also like the most beautiful god, to worship Psyche instead. like full-on worship. They prayed to her, made offerings to her in place of a literal god. There's rumor going around that Psyche is Aphrodite's daughter or something, and Aphrodite is like, no, ew, how dare you, how dare you, and she makes her son, Cupid, or Eros, get revenge for her. He's supposed to go shoot her with one of his arrows and make her fall in love with someone or something really ugly and gross. I don't know, I guess it's supposed to embarrass her or shame her. I don't know what the end game is. Greek myths can get really crazy and gross and horrible. So maybe they were gonna make her like fall in love with a literal pig, you know what I mean, and commit some crimes. I don't know. But Cupid accidentally scratches himself with an arrow and he falls for Psyche instead. At the same time, her parents are starting to worry that she'll never get married because her two less hot sisters are already married, and they're worried that the gods are like mad at them and punishing them by, you know, keeping Psyche single. So the king talks to an oracle of Apollo about Psyche's future, and the oracle's like, yeah, watch out, because she's not going to marry a human. No man, but she will marry a giant dragon guy that even the gods are scared of, so good luck with that. And I'm just working off a summary here of this story, so personally, this is where I get lost. You know, I'm not reading the source material. I will not be reading ever the source material. So like, I don't know what's going on. I don't have all the details. I'm filling in some gaps here. I guess her parents don't love to hear that information, but they're like, cool, you know, we can work with that. We can make that work. Let's get Psyche hitched. So they mash her funeral and wedding together and funeral march her off of a cliff so she can go meet her husband-to-be. The west wind picks her up, I guess while she's falling, and puts her in a meadow. And then she's like, okay, let me take a nap. Now is a really good time for me to nap. She wakes up, she finds a really nice house in the woods that she wakes up in. She's like nervous because she doesn't know what's going on, but she gets in bed. I think she's coaxed into a bedroom. And then some guy that I think it's too dark, so she can't see this guy. He comes in and sleeps with her. Consent level unknown, frankly. Based on Greek mythology, I'm guessing it's not looking good, okay? But, you know, eventually she starts looking forward to this guy's visits, but he forbids her to ever look at him, reasons unknown again, and then he knocks her up. So, you know, real stand-up guy. Her family misses her, so Cupid, like, permits her sisters to visit. I guess Psyche doesn't know what's going on. I think she still believes that she's basically being held hostage. I guess her family vaguely knows what's going on. I don't know. But her family's like, hey, is she okay? So Cupid's like, okay, like, you can come visit her. And her sisters convince her that she's got to figure out what her husband looks like and who this guy is. Which, yeah, frankly, I agree. What's funny is the summary, I think I was reading a Wikipedia summary, but the summary was like, like the subtitle of this section was like betrayal or like betrayal of trust. Girl, she doesn't know who this man is. She is allowed to look. Like, come on. So she carries out this plan while Cupid sleeps. She's got a knife ready to kill this guy because duh. She thinks he's like a monster. I guess, I don't know if it's because she can't see him, so she's just assuming he's ugly. I don't know. But then she turns the lights on and is like, okay, this is the most gorgeous man I've ever seen in my entire life. Maybe he doesn't need to die. I guess hot people really can't get away with anything. But yeah, he's like violently hot, alarmingly hot, and she's so taken aback, she stumbles and cuts herself on one of his arrows and also falls in love with him. And friends, that's true love right there. And then honestly, a whole bunch of stuff happens after that. I'm gonna try to summarize quickly. Cupid runs away, Psyche gets lost trying to find him. She goes on all these adventures. She realizes no god is going to help her while Aphrodite is pissed at her, so she has to start serving Aphrodite. Aphrodite is holding Psyche hostage in her home. She physically beats and tortures her. Then she's like putting her through these trials, okay? Then a swarm of ants come to Psyche's rescue. Again, lost on that part. Turns out at the same time that Psyche is being held hostage in Aphrodite's humble abode, Cupid is also at her house, at his mom, Aphrodite's house, just hanging out, just wallowing while his wound is healing, while his pregnant wife is being beaten to death in the other room. I'm assuming he doesn't know, but honestly, he's not getting much benefit of the doubt from me. Aphrodite keeps giving Psyche tasks for some reason. I, again, lost on that part, including going to the underworld, and while she's down there, something happens to her that sends her into, like, a long sleep. Cupid comes, saves her, wakes her up, whatever, makes a deal with Zeus to make Psyche immortal, so they can finally have a legit wedding as equals. And that is the lore. I could find very, very little about the painting itself. So I honestly have no idea what scene exactly this would be depicting. Like a lot of these neoclassical paintings based on mythology and stuff, they usually are of a very specific scene. Like you can pinpoint where in the source material the painting is from. But for this one, based on the title, I'm assuming it's showing a wedding, and technically Cupid and Psyche have 2 weddings. But one is also her funeral, and this was also a time when she wasn't allowed to like see Cupid, and she was immortal, so she wouldn't have wings. So I doubt it's depicting their first wedding. But I'm also skeptical that it's their real wedding, because that happens amongst the gods, not just like in a garden somewhere. Neoclassical painters weren't always super worried about making things like accurate. It's not weird. It's not weird that I can't pinpoint the source material, but it just doesn't seem to have any context within the actual story aside from the characters being who they are. So as for insight to the painting itself, the reasoning behind it, I couldn't dig up anything. In this painting, we've got Cupid sitting against a grassy thing, raised grassy thing, with his bow and quiver on the ground next to him. He's reaching out to Psyche, who has her butterfly wings. So obviously we can assume this is once she becomes immortal. Apparently there's also supposed to be a butterfly in this painting somewhere, again representing, I think, Cupid or just like life or whatever. Honestly, I couldn't find it. I don't know where the butterfly is. Maybe I'm blind or stupid. I didn't see it anywhere, and I was zooming in on every corner of this painting to reference it. Never saw a butterfly. I don't know. There was also like, it looked like a mask underneath Cupid's butt. I don't know what it is. It looked like a little COVID mask. I know that's not what it is. I don't know what it is. But so yeah, those are the only major symbolic things in this piece. Is like the Cupid or the bow, quiver, butterfly. As far as I could tell, nothing else in this piece was there for like a reason. Like there's this tapestry above them. I didn't find any context for that. I don't think it was important or relevant. The background didn't seem to have any significance, like their location wasn't specified. Neither did the cloth wrapped around Psyche. I think that's just generic modesty cloth that most paintings include. There were no visible flowers or anything that might be symbolic to help tell the story. So it was a bit of a blank slate to work with here when recreating it. Nothing that I had to keep, nothing that had to stay the same, or nothing that I should change for story's sake, like nothing like that. So, working with this blank slate, we'll talk about my creative decisions. I started, just for this whole process, I started by picking the source painting that was the most romantic one. I really wanted it to be on theme for Valentine's Day. I wanted to go super, I have a lot of paintings picked out for things that are a little bit more just generically queer, not necessarily like a romance painting. So I really wanted to do something very, very Valentine's Day-y. And I figured anything with Cupid seemed perfect for Valentine's Day romance stuff, you know what I mean? So from there, I picked the painting. From there, I was doing what I always do for my Make It Gaze. I look at the bones of the piece and decide, what do I want to keep, what do I want to preserve, and what am I willing to change? I did love a lot for this original piece. I loved the poses, of course, the bodies, their faces. I love specifically the profiles that they made. The only thing I wasn't super in love with was their hair. Usually, that's usually what makes me pick 2 women, is I'm always really into somebody's really long hair, and I don't want to lose that. But this time I was I don't care about either of their hair. So I figured I could kind of go either way with gender presentation. But in the end, I decided to go with 2 women or femme presenting people. It just seemed easier. There was more I could preserve and less I would have to anatomically come up with myself without a reference. Also, I just love drawing women. Like I said, I loved the profiles of these characters, and I loved how strong both of their noses were. They both had very strong, striking profiles. So that was honestly my driving factor in how I came up with the appearance of these characters. I didn't have much in mind for what I wanted to do. Sometimes I go in knowing I want to represent this specific thing or whatever. I really didn't know what I was planning, so I just did a quick doodle. I did my preliminary sketch, and then the ideas just kind of came to me while I was doing that sketch. It was a very natural process, and I really, really enjoyed. I ended up going specifically with the idea of an Indian woman on the right, because I really like the idea of giving her, I really wanted a nice warm skin tone. I liked the idea of the headpiece, and then I was what would be really cool is if I gave her henna on her hands, and then I was oh my gosh, if I did vitiligo, I think that's how you pronounce it, I can never remember, I believe it's vitiligo, on our other woman, it could kind of be like mirroring of both of them having like those details on their hands. And also the woman on the right was just feeling a little bit plain, a little bit lacking in anything and any sort of defining feature. So she got vitiligo, and I really like the way they both came out. But yeah, there wasn't much thought put into either of them or any specific kind of representation. I talked about this in a recent Make It Gay, but sometimes I like to put a lot of planning and put a lot of like thought and care into representing as many like people in the queer community as possible. And sometimes I just like to go in head empty with the purpose of just painting self-indulgent gay stuff. So for this one, this is about it. There's really not much, there's not really anything specific or purposeful going on with these ladies. I enjoyed having a less thought out, like more chill, Make It Gay. It was really fun to do. I think both of these ladies turned out so beautiful. And I think it just ended up working out perfectly for how little thought went into the process of planning and deciding what they would look like. I think it worked out so perfectly, beautifully. I really, really am happy with both of them. The process of the painting itself was a bit touch and go. Our lady on the right came together so quickly and easily. She was very easy to paint. She came together so fast with so little effort on my part. But our girlie on the left, I really did not like the skin tone that I originally mixed. I had something in mind of what I wanted. I wanted something a little more desaturated, a little bit more maybe like blue tinted. I don't know what I was looking for, but whatever I did, it was gray. I mixed straight up gray and I really didn't like it. So I kept painting over her, trying to make her look like more lively and less dead. And no matter how different the skin tone I mixed was, I still couldn't get the skin tone to budge. It would all dry the exact same on paper, and it would mix with the layers underneath, and it was just getting muddy, and it just was not good. I kept having to go back and like, I know, just nothing was working the way I wanted it to work. None of the colors were making a difference. I would go in and like lay down lighter areas to do highlights, and that would look really stark white compared to it, but then it would dry and it would do like nothing. And I ended up just basically instead of like starting to add, like I would put a base layer down and then I would go in with a different value, and instead of building up like different, planes of the face, I would just basically blend it all into one blob and then just keep making another base color, another base color, another base color, and I just wasn't getting anywhere. She was definitely much harder to do. I think she did come together in the end. I am happy with her. She just took a lot longer. But overall, as always, every time, working with gouache is such a pleasure, so fun to do. I really think it does half the work for you. Like I was doing the wet on wet, the cloth, the background. I love doing the back. I don't know what it was, but there was something about like the way with the acrylic pink base coat and then putting the wet on top. It was just looking so beautiful. There were, of course, some areas where it would dry very, very transparent, and so that did take a few layers. There were those areas that I had to keep coming back to. Of course, lights always dry darker than you expect, so I did have to keep going back to fix that. But yeah, watching it come together was like so fun. I love watching pieces like this come together. This is a problem that I've been continuing to have. I think I do need to go back and punch up some of the highlights. I feel like it's a little low contrast. One of the things that's really striking about the original is both characters are very, very pale, and it has a very dark background, and so they stand out a lot, right? Like they're very striking. And here I have two pretty like mid to dark tone. I mean, I wouldn't call them dark tone, but they're not like glowing white like the original characters, the original figures. So there's a lot less contrast, and I think it makes the blue cloth stand out a little bit too much. I think it makes it feel a little less dimensional because there's not a lot, like the highlights, again, the lights are always drying darker than you expect, so the highlights aren't standing out as much as they could. Like on their skin, there were a lot of places that I really wanted them to be like glowing and shiny, and they're just not. So I think that would be something that I would go back and fix. But I think that's it. Like I think that's the only major problem. I wouldn't even call it a problem. I still think it looks fine. I think it looks like a complete piece. But yeah, besides Our Lady on the left, nothing really gave me issues here. It was fun. It was a one-day painting. I was able to get it done in one day, and I really like it. I really, really like it. So yeah. It is the next day. I put on the same shirt. We did it! It's so dark. It's so dark. Why do I keep doing that? This is like the second thing in a row that I've done that it's like there's no contrast and it's super dull. Doesn't matter. I love it. I honestly, maybe I'll put the picture up. I took a picture like halfway through and I loved, it was just the figures painted. There was no background and I loved the way it looked. And I wish I could stop there sometimes with paintings. Like I wish I could just have the unfinished, I could if I wanted, but they just look so stunning by themselves. And I feel like obviously it looks like complete now, but it feels like a little cluttered. Do you know what I mean? Like there's something about the unfinished edges and just having like just the people. It was really, really pretty. But I am super happy with this. I really, really love it. Like I sometimes listen. I know that I'm good at art. That's why I do it professionally. Sometimes I do something and I'm like, wow, I'm like, I'm kind of really good. This is one of those things. I'm just really stunned by it. I think it's beautiful. One of my favorite things that I've done in a while. Possibly my new favorite, Make It Gay. I don't know if that's going to stay true. I tend to like something for like a day and then I start hating it. So who knows? But as of now, I think it's probably one of the best Make It Gays that I've done. I just think it looks really pretty. I think they look really pretty. I really love it. I really love them. I love these girlies. I think this looks so pretty. I love it so much. Like their faces are just so satisfying. I'm really, 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 really pleased with this one. Just couldn't be happier. I don't know. It's one of those. It's every once in a while I do something that I just can't stop looking at it, and like I just want to stare at it forever. And that's this. Like I just could look at this for hours. And what's so funny is the sketch I told you guys in the beginning, like the preliminary sketch that I had done, not the sketch for the final piece, but like the doodle that I did in my sketchbook, even that, like I kept that open on my desk so I could look at it every time I walked by because I loved the sketch. So the fact that I went from like the doodle sketch to the final sketch to the final piece, all of them being something that I was super obsessed with is really fun. I really needed a win, honestly, so the fact that this turned out so well feels great for me. Obviously, it's not added to the Make It Gay zine. I will probably wait until I have another whole collection of Make It Gay pieces and then do a Make It Gay Part 2 zine. So it won't be added to this zine. It's in my Etsy shop. It's a collection of all of, except for this one, a collection of all of the Make It Gay pieces I've ever done in a booklet form. So this one won't be added to it. I will be making prints ASAP. I want to do like a really big shop update and like make some other stuff to go in it. So I might wait. I don't know, but prints are not yet available. Let me know how interested you are. Like how many people want a print of this because that will affect how many I order. Let me know like how in demand this is going to be. But yeah, that's all I've got. We painted a painting. We talked about it. And we had a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time. I hope you did too. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you to Luisa for sponsoring. Again, you can check out the link in the description to check them out. I just keep looking at it. Oh my god. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go make some art. I'll see you next time. Bye.